while we're waiting, I know Angela uses the change agent. I think, Amy, you do, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, I have used it.
I definitely used it. I really
And
like it. Yeah.
awesome.
In fact, I think I
Great.
contacted you, Cynthia, once before. I had some questions in the fall or something. I had a very mixed class, a different place I was teaching, and it was nice to be able to find the different levels at different, the same article at different levels or the same topic at different levels. It was wonderful.
Yeah, great.
Hi, Colleen. Nice to see you. Your hair's getting long, or did you just cut it? Maybe. It's been a while since I saw you.
Nice to see you too. I think it's been a couple of haircuts since I've seen you.
Um, so it's interesting. We have an interesting group. I'm wondering while we wait for just a couple other people, Cynthia, can people maybe go around and say what population they work with? Is it youth? Is it adults, ABE, GED? Let's start with Amy.
Yes, I work with adult learners. I have everyone from Generation Z to people that are in their 70s, and I do ESOL at the Genesis Center in Rhode Island. And I teach, I'd say higher level beginners. Level two, we call it here.
Geraldine, how about you? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Geraldine.
Sorry, I go by Jerry. I mean, I should change that. You don't know that. But I also work at Genesis Center with Amy across the hall from her, and I teach intermediates, although it's kind of like I grab some of them from her class. And then I have some who are ready to get out. And they're everywhere from my little retired group, four people who sit together. And then I have some youngsters to, I don't know, early 20s. And I love my class. It's just so fun. So it's a little bit more advanced. So they're doing a lot more reading and like word study and things like that.
Colleen.
Hello, I'm Colleen. I work at Aquidneck Island Adult Learning Center, and I guess all of the above. Um, I work with our GED class, especially with our 16 to 18-year-olds, and I'm not currently teaching any ESOL. I've previously taught basic and beginner level.
Mita.
Hi, I'm Mita, and I'm teaching at Dorcas, and I teach the low beginner level.
And Angela, last but never least.
Hi, I'm Angela. I teach intermediate level adults and ESL
Where?
at Dorcas International
Oh, I'm
Institute.
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, sure.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. With no further ado, I'm passing the torch off to Cynthia Peters. We're so glad to have her here today. She's, of course, presenting on writing with the change agent this week. Take it away, Cynthia.
Thank you very much, Marie, and thanks everybody for being here. And so I'm Cynthia Peters. I'm the editor of The Change Agent. I've been doing that since 2007. I'm also a longtime ABE and ESOL teacher, and I currently work part-time at Julie's Family Learning in South Boston, where I teach the high set to a wide range of skills and ages and the typical, ABE classroom where all sorts of levels and all sorts of things going on. So but I'm really happy to be here, and I love that we have a kind of a small, manageable group because I'm hoping that maybe we can kind of workshop this workshop a little bit, and people can chime in and interrupt and add their expertise because I know there's a lot of expertise in this room. So I'll be sharing my screen, but I'll also be unsharing occasionally and just kind of getting us talking to each other, hopefully. So. Yeah, I'm gonna just run through a couple of introductory things. Then I'm gonna dive into an article called Polio Could Not Defeat My Brother. And then we're gonna look at a group of three articles, not read them necessarily, but just think about them. And for both number 4 and 5 here, I want to just kind of look at the writerly nature of these pieces. And yeah, we'll talk more about that. I want to let you know about the call for articles, and I want to share some student writing that actually worked on in a classroom recently, and give you this access to this tool called sentence analysis, which is something I've been using in my classroom, which I think is really useful. So we're going to do kind of big writing, macro thinking about writing, and we're going to also do some more micro thinking about writing, and probably a few things in between. So I I have a prelude for you, like I did for my last webinar. The last webinar, the prelude was a poem in ASL. And this one is just a dance piece that hopefully you'll be able to hear this. Okay, so that was something I wanted to share just because our current series of the Change Agent is on disabilities and learning differences. And I've been trying to incorporate into my webinars and my workshops and in my classroom just some presence of people who are disabled, expressing themselves in a variety of ways. And so, I don't know, any responses to that piece of dance, that little bit of choreography?
I think for me, I appreciate seeing dance because I think so often as teachers, we're used to kind of feeling, a mastery over something. Although, I feel like I'm always learning new things. But when I see dance, I'm always, I feel like I can't quite understand what's going on in the modern dance. And I'm like curious to learn more. And I like that experience of kind of immersing myself in the art form.
Also, I hear what you're saying. It's like a place where you don't feel mastery of it. You're kind of like, oh, I don't get this. Our students are probably feeling that a lot, right? But I I like that as a teacher that you're willing to put yourself in that role. Any other responses? Just I mean, I'll just say one thing I like about it, which I just noticed this time. I've seen it probably, 20 times by now, but I like the that they incorporated wheels, like other kinds of wheels besides the wheelchair. I thought that was brilliant. Like I just thought of that this time. It's like, oh wow, they brought in other wheels, to not make the wheelchair person the only one in wheels. I don't know. I also
No,
just go
yeah, I
ahead.
also it's true. I was really impressed with some of the things that they did with their bodies. Um, there was one where they were kind of layered on like a little, uh, almost what am I thinking of?
Like a cart.
Yeah. And you couldn't almost tell who was who. And then the other one that impressed me was they lifted up the man and he did this dance. I don't know. It was really impressive. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
really profound, is what I
Mhm.
actually want to say. And I'm like you, Amy. I have a hard time with poetry. I have a hard time with dance, like interpreting it. So yeah, I really could get into that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing about the Disabilities and Learning Differences series is that we are trying to show the gifts and the challenges related to having a disability or a learning difference. And the writers themselves, they don't shy away from sharing the challenge of their situation, but they also really do notice the gifts that it has brought into their lives. And in some ways, my daughter has this thing where she says sometimes she's like, "Oh my God, I'm cracked." Like something just cracks her wide open. And I like the idea of just sharing something in the classroom. Maybe it's just different. Maybe there's no explanation. Maybe it's just here, see what you think, just open things up a little bit. So, and there's so much great stuff that you can find, if you go looking around like for that kind of thing. So that's our prelude, but now let's go back to our slideshow. And I think people here mostly know the change agent. I'm not wrong about that, am I? I don't think I need to do a big introduction about it. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but you know that we share almost all writing by students, that we're lifting up stories of them being agents of change, that we think that's really important for learner persistence, is that they see themselves as agents in their own life. And our stories really reflect that about adult learners. We operate in this way where we publish 3 issues a year and they come out in a series on the same theme. And so a while ago, our theme was transferable skills. And then last year it was digital literacy. And this year it's disabilities and learning differences. And everybody in Rhode Island can log in with these credentials. And hopefully everybody already knows that. But if you don't, you might want to just log in right now. Just go ahead and actually, Marie, if you could help me by throwing that into the chat, that information into the chat, and then just click on the hot link to the change agent, and then put in Rhode Island, all one word, all lowercase, as your username, and change agent, all one word, all lowercase, as your password.
Excuse me, Cynthia. So this year the theme is home, I believe.
Yeah,
Are
coming
you
up.
going to have you're going to have 3 calls for 3 different, slightly different perspectives on home? Is that it for this year?
Yes, but we're not doing 3 different calls for articles. Wow.
Oh, okay.
We're just doing 1 call for articles. It's currently published, and then
Got
you'll
it.
see there's quite a lot of prompts in that call for articles. And then what I do is when I get all the submissions in, I then try to analyze the content and think, how does this sort itself into 3 different sub-themes? And
Got
I
it.
usually find a natural way that it sorts itself. And then I kind of create 3 different sub-themes and publish them like that. But yeah, all the submissions for the next school year have to be into me by early May 4th, and we're going to talk more about that. Okay, so hopefully people are logged in. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be logged in for this webinar, but I like it when people are logged in because it's a good reminder to you. And also, let me just say right now, you can have your students log in on those same credentials, and you should, and show them around the website, show them the audio. I think a lot of you might know about this already, but I'm gonna show you again right here. I want you to make sure you know about this resources tab, and then you scroll down to this blue heading that's called Index with Article Reading Levels and Audio. And I saw Angela teaching her class about this recently, and it was brilliant. She was really breaking it down, how to navigate to this page, how to sort by level, and then how to, see that some of the articles are available in audio. And so students can listen to the text. I'll just open one of them. You can push the play button and you can hear the text read to you out loud while you follow along, reading it. So this is a great way, see this very short, accessible article about gum in her hair when she was a kid. It sounds innocent, but then it has a kind of heavy thing that happens in it. It's very typical of, adult writing, but I like it that you can just click by level here and your students can find their way to the pieces that feel comfortable for them, and they can sort of move up bit by bit as they feel more comfortable. I know that there was somebody in today's webinar who teaches beginners. And so the change agent is a little bit hard for true beginners, but some of your beginners might be comfortable in this too. This is a grade level equivalent. Okay. So some of them might be comfortable, at least at the grade level 2 level. Okay.
Sorry, Cynthia, I got another question.
Yeah, great.
Is there a way for example, I was looking the other day for something on, I can't remember what it was, economics or something. Is there a
Yeah.
way to search the entire database with
No.
a short term?
Nope.
So you've literally got to go from issue to
Yep.
issue if you're looking. Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Yep, sorry.
That's okay.
I wish we had that, but we don't. You can always reach out to me and ask me because I have a catalog in my brain, and I might be able to say, yeah, actually, we do have that. And I might have to try to remember like which issue it was published in or whatever, but just you
Okay.
can always hit me up if you want. But yeah, sorry. The two ways to look for content are go to the issues tab
Mhm.
and scroll through the back issues, right? And then you just at least get the theme, right? Or go to the other thing I just said, the resources tab, and go to the and search by level.
Okay.
So those are the only two search mechanisms. Great. And thank you for interrupting. Thank you for your questions. Please keep doing that. I wanna hear from you as I go along and don't hold your questions because probably somebody else has the same question. So you might as well ask it. All right, so I think what I want to do is just read this article out loud right now. And it's pretty short, but I do have 2 pages of content here because I have, two significant extensions that go with the article, including this red box right here, Polio Around the World Today, that includes a link to this interactive map that, you can check out about polio. It also gives your, learners a chance to think about like the literacy uh, of reading maps and reading, the grid at the bottom and reading the title and things like that. And then the other one is about the vaccine, the polio vaccine. I thought that could be an interesting class discussion. Vaccines are certainly in current events a lot, being discussed a lot in current events. I don't know what students are hearing or not hearing, but it's just a chance to kind of bring some science into it and also some more discussion. All right, so I'll just read the article kind of quickly. It's called Polio Could Not Defeat My Brother. Also, you'll notice that there's some before you read activities. Share what you know about polio. Think about the verb to defeat. What does it mean? Can you name a synonym for defeat? Oh, that's actually harder than you realize to name a synonym for defeat. So sometimes I make these activities and I think, oh, that's too hard. But anyway, you can always adapt, anything that I put out there, of course. All right, so born in Vietnam. I was born in Vietnam in a big family. My mom and dad had 11 children. We lived in a small house in Ho Chi Minh City. It is sunny, hot, and humid all summer long. There are a lot of shops, and the street food is very good. Since it is not far from the beach, sometimes my parents took us there. In okay, wait, yeah. In the summer, the beautiful water is clear and peaceful. There are mountains all around. My brother got polio. I have a brother, Khan. He is 1 year older than me. He got polio when he was 3 years old. As a result, he could not walk. When he turned 6, he started walking with a cane. He used his hand to support his leg because one of his legs was very weak and a lot smaller than the other leg. Whenever we went somewhere, he just sat there. When we started school, I had to help carry his stuff for school. Sometimes I felt like I was his parent, even though he is 1 year older than me. We did not have a school bus like in the United States. We had to wake up very early to walk to school together because it took him a long time. He followed his dream. Other kids often bullied him. They often pushed him to the ground and laughed at him. I would fight with those boys and try to protect my brother. He was a very smart kid, and he was in the top 10 of his class. When we took swimming lessons, he beat all the kids his age. He can swim very well, like a fish. When he was in the 7th grade, he was able to fix small electronics like radios, speakers, and TVs. His dream was to be an engineer. When we came to the United States, we lived in South Dakota. Khan got a job in a small shop where they fixed TVs, computers, and other items. He continued to learn even when he was not working. He was very good at it. Now he works in California for a medical equipment supply company, and he is a team leader. I am so proud of him. polio could not defeat my brother. So that's the end. And then there are some after you read activities. But before I sort of talk about what I want to say about this piece, I just wonder if anybody has any reactions, hearing the piece.
English-wise, it should be quite easy to understand for even lower than intermediate level. I don't know about low beginners, but I think even high beginners would understand the language.
When I ran it through my calculator that I use to level the articles, it came out as grade level 4.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, the sentences are pretty short and straightforward, and there are some harder words in there, but yeah, not too
Yeah,
hard.
yeah, even though it would be a difficult one, but yeah.
Yeah. Any other just responses to the story, or
I
you think it
think
would
it's
resonate?
something that, you can definitely make a connection to whether, it's someone with cancer, someone with, it's that overcoming, and it's a very personal story, but I think everyone can make a relationship with this story about somebody that they know who has
Mhm.
overcome something. So it's very powerful, I think.
Mhm.
I was wondering,
Go ahead, Angela.
I was wondering how you teach to read the story in a flow, um, because I'm really paying attention to bringing to attention my students so they understand layout, design, format, so it becomes second nature to them to just immediately look at a piece of text online or in paper and look at before you start to read to look at those things.
Mhm.
To not read the two red boxes.
Mhm.
How do you teach that? Do you have any tips,
So,
suggestions?
yeah. So what I would say is
First of all,
that
what are they called when you have are they called text boxes?
I don't know, call out boxes. I just call them boxes, honestly. Um, but when I'm teaching, I think a big literacy skill is being able to look at a piece of paper like this PDF, with all these things going on it, and not get overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
by all the pieces. But that's an important literacy skill because we have to look at complicated documents and try to tackle them even if they feel overwhelming. So one good teaching strategy for teaching reading is, let's read the title. Let's read the headings. It's a really good pre-reading strategy is to read the headings. Born in Vietnam, okay. My brother got polio, okay. He followed his dream. And then what do you think this article is going to be about? Let's think about it together. Some of the vocabulary might come up. People might think about the word Vietnam. Where is Vietnam? They might know somebody from Vietnam. You might have somebody in your class from Vietnam. I mean, just try to like any of the little markers that can help people have something to hold on to. Um,
Yeah.
these share what you know about polio before you start reading. That's a good, strategy. And then you can also say to people, the red boxes have extra information. Do we have to think about that right now? No, we don't have to. That's like a extra information. It's going to help us maybe understand the story a little bit, but we don't have to take that on right now. And that's an important literacy skill too. What do I have to focus on? What can I let go for now?
Yeah.
So I think teaching people about that will help them read, you know.
I also hear Angela's trying to come back in, so let me get her back in.
Okay.
But I wonder, here she comes. Okay. I was wondering, you're back with us, right, Angela?
Yes, I am. I'm so
Okay.
sorry about
No, don't apologize. So I was thinking about your question, which is like, how do I let students know about, the box? And I wonder if, like Cynthia was going over the different parts of the text, wonder if that can be a part of that. Oh, when you come to a box, let's talk about it. What's the title of the box? And the box says polio around the world. And then you could maybe say, okay, well, the article is talking about a guy from Vietnam, and this one's around the, like, why is there a box there? Why is that information different? It is different. Like Cynthia pointed out, it's extra material. And then you're going to read the extra material first? Maybe, depends, but probably not, right? I don't know. Just thinking about your question and how people might help students figure out what's the most important thing that I need to look at on a page filled with different types of formatting and text. I don't
I,
know.
I
What do others think?
I think we need to really talk about formats a lot because even when I wrote one text and that's why I got exited out of the meeting. One is that our students don't come from a lot of text-based backgrounds, so they often just avoid the text. That's one thing. But now I think even the younger ones are not going to have grown up around magazines, right? So we saw magazines that my mom subscribed to, or my dad looked at, or the daily newspaper. So format was something that I had to engage with, even though I didn't read the newspaper or that newspaper. And I don't think our students, the younger ones, are going to have a lot of paper things that they're going to have laying around that they are just like, oh yeah, that's relevant. That isn't. That's less important to the. I don't know. Like, what do you think? I'm sure this is not what you wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
So
no,
sorry.
I know in a way we're talking a lot about reading strategies, and I want us also to focus on the writing part as well. But I think that when you are a good reader and a close reader, it helps you be a better writer. And so I believe in close reading because it teaches you what is the mechanics of this person doing that's making me be able to absorb this information or follow the story or be engaged in the story. And then you can try to replicate that when you write. So um, I basically want to just kind of like agree that an important element of literacy is being able to look at a page and break it down to yourself, focus in on the parts that matter the most, and allow some pieces to get deprioritized. Not everything is of equal value. You know, you don't have to understand every word. And just basically like over time, you get the confidence to look at a piece of paper with a bunch of stuff on it, a bunch of elements, and say to yourself, I can figure this out. I'm not too scared by this document. Oh, so that's why I think it's great, to bring in the PDF of the change agent. For teachers, the reason why I make these boxes is because part of the standards these days is not just being able to read, but having a certain amount of knowledge. Like to be able to pass the high set, you have to know a certain amount of science, and you have to know a certain amount of social studies. So at whatever level you're teaching, you want to be incorporating and building a knowledge base. So that's why I make those extensions, but it's always up to you about whether or not you really want to focus on that in your class. It would be completely fair not to focus on that if that wasn't right for your group. But what I was thinking was good about this piece in terms of teaching writing is that the writer makes a very specific claim. She says, polio could not defeat my brother. And I thought it would be an interesting exercise to get your students to answer the question, does she provide evidence to support her claim? And it gives you a chance to use the word claim and evidence. And you get to practice with this idea of making a claim and then backing up your claim with evidence. Now, those words are not everyday English words, right? You don't hear claim and evidence in everyday English. But I think they are very important words for our emerging writers to know. And as teachers to ask, when your students are ready, saying, what is your claim? It's kind of like, what is your main idea? What are you trying to say here? And then where's the evidence to back up your claim? So I actually have a little activity for us to try, if you don't mind. And let's see, maybe you can help me, Marie. There's a link. Let me go back to sharing. I made a special, here it is. Okay, let's just slow down here. Be a close reader, be a better writer. Let me just share this slide before I um Okay, so these are the after you read activities that I created. So the first one is, according to the author, her brother was not defeated by polio. And again, I'm being very conscientious about my language. According to the author, that's a phrase I really want students to get used to. So, according to the author, her brother was not defeated by polio. What evidence does she share to make her point? Share this graphic organizer with your students to take notes. Now that link, and I think you all will get a copy of these slides, that link is to my generic graphic organizer that is viewable to anybody who has the link. In your case, you'll need to open it and then make a copy of it or download it so that you can adapt it and share it with your students. But I made a special one for this webinar and it's in the notes section, Marie, if you don't mind
Okay.
grabbing it.
Oh, I see it. Okay, so the one that I just put in the chat is from the slide. So
Oh,
hang
that's
on
the
a
wrong
minute.
one. That's the
I'm
wrong
gonna
one.
I'm gonna put the one for today. So give me two
Yeah, that's
seconds.
okay. While you're doing that, I'll just continue.
Yep.
Then the second after you read activity is the author uses the simile like a fish to describe how her brother swims. Now, obviously, you'll need to teach simile if you haven't done that. Try making your own similes to describe human movement. For example, compare running, walking, eating, hopping, or some other movement to that of an animal. Well, I was kind of doing a little hand holding there. You can do any kind of simile you want, obviously, but I thought that would make it easier just to give some ideas. And then third, the author says she felt like a parent to her brother, even though he is 1 year older. What is the role of even though in that sentence? Use even though in a couple of your own sentences. So that's kind of hard, I think. But it's an important English phrase, even though.
Mhm.
It's a bit odd and it might take a little practice, but I think that would be a really good way to practice writing. And, it also launches you into a level of complexity that I think is appropriate for adults and helpful for their speaking and listening and their writing. So those are the three. There's a fourth activity, but I didn't put it on this slide because it was something else. But I thought these were the three activities that I came up with to help sort of teach writing using this piece. And the first one is the one I want to do with you now. And the way it works is, see, I think I have it already open here. Yes, this is the shareable copy, or I should have said editable copy of Polio Could Not Defeat My Brother. I think the share settings on it are anyone with the link can edit. So here's the idea of this worksheet. It basically says that, the author describes growing up with an older brother with polio. She claims that polio did not defeat him. What evidence does she share to back up her claim? So this is an opportunity for students to go back to the text and find the evidence that she uses to prove that her brother was not defeated by polio. So I wonder if you will be willing to just give it a try right now. And I put the link to the article in the chat, or you might just remember a few of the things that, a few of her pieces of evidence, and try just typing in here right now some of the things that her brother did. I see everybody in the document now. He used a tool. Oh, I love that anonymous elephant. Yes, that's very insightful. Mhm. Yeah, he fixed electronics. He wasn't a victim, he led his life the way he could figure out. which is what we're all doing. He found his niche. I never know how to pronounce that word. He can fix my Excel to the top of his class. Great. So you get the idea, right, of how this graphic organizer works. And I mean, I don't know if people would want to have their students all on a Google Doc at the same time trying to fill it out. That would take a lot of pre-teaching about how Google Docs work. Everybody would have to be on a laptop. Everybody would have to know how to not type on top of each other. And so there would be a lot of pre-teaching there. And if that's part of your mission, great. You have an opportunity to practice it and try it out here. If it's not part of your mission, honestly, just print out the organizer and hand out hard copies and let people write with a pen in there. And then they're doing a certain type of writing called what? You're on mute, Geraldine. I heard you. I saw you said something.
Personal narrative?
Yeah, I mean, if you have them go on and write something, they would be doing
Oh,
personal
sorry.
narrative. But
So
when
the
they're writing in the graphic organizer, what kind of writing is that?
shared writing?
Yeah, or just
Okay,
notes.
but
Yeah.
oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, taking notes, which,
Mm.
an important part of the college and career readiness standards is writing for different tasks and purposes, right? So the only kind of writing is not, the 5-paragraph essay or the perfect paragraph with the topic sentence and the. That is important, of course, we got to do that, but also being able to take notes. How do you just distill it down to like a couple key points? Swims like a fish, fixes electron. You don't have to write the whole thing. You don't have to quote it. You don't have to copy it. It's an important skill. So, and again, that might require a bit of pre-teaching as well. What does it mean to take notes? And if somebody did copy something directly from the text, then you might have to teach them about putting quotes around it. So then that leads to a whole other writerly skill, which is being able to quote. And how do you punctuate with quotation marks and all that? So there's a lot of learning that can happen here just by using the graphic organizer. But the thing that I'm hoping for by sharing this is that you're teaching, by teaching this kind of close reading, you're teaching them how to write. They are in most writings, we're making some kind of claim. But are we backing up our claim? Or are we just saying it's true? It's not enough. Like this writer could have said, and in fact, she may have said, because what I get at the change agent a lot is very general and honestly a little superficial. Like it's very stays on the surface. People write stuff like, oh, my brother wasn't defeated by polio. He was so positive and he worked so hard and he's having a successful life or something. And I'm like, what is that? So you say, but you have not shown me anything. I mean, I'm happy for your brother, but like, I'm not interested. I'm not engaged. I don't really want to read that. Like, I don't know anything.
Can I share something now? Sorry. Just today, I was doing the home brainstorming. And so a Haitian student wrote a brilliant sentence that said, home is where I either establish, I don't think so, but something about it shows my identity. And I was like, you know what Cynthia is going to say? She needs some claim. She needs some evidence. So you're going to have to dig deeper. Which is one of Cynthia's favorite sentences. And so I was like, you need to show me where in your, she said, in my kitchen when I'm washing dishes, something like that. And I was like, you need to show me, the reader, bring me into your house, into your home, and show me how that shows your identity. So I was like, I'm channeling Cynthia here.
Yay. I mean, the dig deeper thing works for you Rhode Islanders because you guys have been doing a lot of digging in the recent past, if I'm not mistaken. I thought that metaphor was very apt. So, yeah, so that's the trick, right? And if you can use change agent articles to show how somebody not just made a claim, but then really gave the feeling for it. Like some of her details are very powerful and moving. And even her sentence, even though I was younger than him, I felt like his parent, there's a lot going on in that sentence. She clearly has a lot of love for her brother. There's a lot of, attachment and devotion, but also it was hard. She really is hitting a lot of notes. So if you can encourage your students, if you're thinking about having your students write for the change agent, what I call this kind of reverse engineering, like look at an article and go, what worked about this article for you? So one thing I do in my classroom is we do a lot of collaborative editing, and I get permission to put a student's writing up on the board, and we critique it. And we talk about what is good criticism, what is constructive criticism. It's not just saying, oh, this was so good, or wow, you write so well, or because I want to know what was good about it and be specific. So I keep trying to train my students to be very specific. And my hope is that the writer gets the feedback, but also even as the giver of the feedback, you're training your own self as a writer. So any questions about that? Okay. Good. Well, so that tool is there for you, that graphic organizer. It's in the issue 67. If you go to issue 67 and click on it and you look at the extras, you'll see the link to the clean copy. And then you can use that clean copy. You just make a copy of it yourself if you have a Google account, or you download it to a Word doc. And you can reword it, or you can use it for a different article. It's like you choose a different article and you just put different instructions at the top, but use the same grid. Okay, let me come back here and get to our next. So that was one thing about that article, is that I wanted to help people identify a claim and then find the evidence. And that one's so easy because her claim is literally the title, polio could not defeat my brother. Sometimes you have to work a little harder to figure out what is the claim. Okay. Then there's articles on pages 4, 6, and 8 of issue 67. You can look at the table of contents and see those articles, but they're all good examples of writers who share a shift in their perspective. They have a narrative arc. So, and then I made a graphic organizer for students to take notes on that. And so that the 3 articles in this graphic organizer, you get to put the article title in the left column, what happened to the writer, and then how does the writer's perspective change? Now, this might be fairly high level, especially to do it for 3 different articles. Maybe that's too much. Maybe you want to pick the easiest article and just do 1 article. But the thing that I'm trying to get to is this idea that something happened to the writer, and then the writer's perspective shifts or changes over time. So, what I mean by that, and I'll just go and show you, you go to issues, you go to issue 67. So the first article is on page 4. I'm going to show you this one. Losing my friend and my leg. Wow, it's hard. It's a hard story. It starts out really light and friendly. They're at a nightclub, they're drinking, they're having fun. They get in their car to go home. There's an accident and a great loss. His friend dies, and he, the author of the story, loses his leg. And then the story goes on to describe the long road to healing. We get the word prosthesis, hard word to pronounce. But, there's an interesting box here too about somebody who makes prosthetic devices that match different skin tones, so that's like a little extension and another chance to practice the word prosthesis and prosthetic, things like that. So he has a long road to healing, and then he kind of like reflects on he's now living for 2. There's never a day that he doesn't think of his friend. And it's also very interesting. He talks about he struggles to live with the physical and mental scars. He says, I want others to know they're not alone. We should help each other and make sure people feel hope and love. Everyone needs to have the sense that someone cares. And then he also, in his bio, which I think is pretty interesting, he talks about how, his whole goal in life is to live in a way that is centered on serving others with love, humility, and a genuine desire to make a positive impact. He works part-time at Lake Wellness Center Detox, where he supports patients in recovery. He is also a recovering alcoholic. So it's not even until the bio that you find out that he's a recovering alcoholic. You might wonder about the role of alcohol in in the accident happening. It's not clear. You can infer something possibly, maybe. That would be interesting to talk about with your class. It's not clear. But if you read deeply and closely, you get more information and you can use that information to infer whatever you think makes sense. So in this case, we have a real narrative arc. We have somebody who went through a big transformation. And that's another element of writing that is important in a macro sense. So we haven't gotten into, nitpicking sentences yet, but I'm sort of still up here on the macro level. And I'll tell you, as an editor, when I get a piece where somebody has been through a transformation, that's very powerful for me as a reader. And I think it's powerful for our readers. I think it really resonates for people. And I think it does an important thing. So many times, like my students and so many myself and many, we feel stuck, right? And we haven't lost our leg necessarily or been in that kind of act, but we still get stuck. And these are stories of people getting unstuck. And they're not preaching about just get unstuck, like just do this or just do that. They're showing what happened to them. And it's very, I don't know, it touches me. And I hope it would touch your students. And it would also, again, be that kind of instruction to them to try that out if they're willing. Now, I kept saying in Angela's class, you don't have to. Like if, this is hard for you or you don't want to show yourself or you're not feeling safe to do that, nobody wants to make you do that. I don't want anybody to feel forced. But if you want to explore, and if you have support to explore, and if you have people around you who are saying gently and kindly, can you say more about that? I'm curious to understand better. Can you show me what you mean? That's so powerful. Just makes all the difference for a writer to be asked questions like that. Any responses to that article or that idea of an activity to identify the shift? And how that might help you as a writer? No, okay. So, well, those are the three that I picked out, the three that you see on the slide, but every story has some kind of shift in it usually. So just going and finding that and helping your students identify that and just even understanding the word about shift or change in perspective or any of the ways you want to teach it at the level that makes sense, then please do. I put this very silly little graphic here. Like, is it a 6 or a 9? I mean, just for that idea of perspective, looking at something a different way can change how you think about it. Okay, so now let's think about the call for articles a little bit. So just some of the basics about it. It says will be available, but what it is available. The deadline is actually, I think it's May 4th, but whatever. It's something like that. Doesn't matter really too much, but early May. And it's great that if your students can be familiar with the change agent, so that they have a sense of the audience that they're writing for or the context that they're going to be writing in. It's not the typical classroom context. It's a different, authentic audience that they're going to be writing for. And students whose pieces are accepted get a $50 gift card. So that's some of the basic information. And I'm going to click on the call for articles and show you that a little bit more. But before I do that, I want to share this piece of writing that I mean, Angela, how much I'm not going to say the name of your student, but I'm going to just mention that I did visit Angela's class, and she shared some of her student writing with me, and then we talked about it in the class. And so this was a piece that one of her students wrote about snow. And I just think there's so many interesting things going on here, right? I mean, there's a lot of little grammar mistakes. And one thing I made clear when I talked to the class is grammar mistakes don't bother me at all. They're easily fixed. But what I can't do is reach into your heart and tell the story that only you can tell. So I thought this writer did a fabulous job of painting a picture about as the snow was falling, that the alarms were coming on, that police cars were going around with their lights on, and that the ambulances were making their noises. And it was a scary time because everybody was alert. They're just, she's doing a great job giving details here. Clearly, there's, polishing that needs to happen, but that's okay. And then she makes this really interesting observation. It's curious because some people didn't believe about the amount of snow that was expected. Okay, people didn't trust the weather reports. Good reason for that. Half the time what you hear in the weather doesn't come to be. So people, but she's reflecting on that. And I think that's kind of interesting. And then she goes on to talk about the city had a lot of hard work to do to clean up. And the good thing that came out of it is that all the neighbors came out to do the same work. And we met some of our neighbors for the first time, she says. So I loved being able to give feedback on this story because there's so much great stuff in there already. It needs a little bit of polishing. It might need a little bit more detail, like maybe say a little bit more about a neighbor that you met that you had never met before. I think she did in class, didn't she, Angela? She went on to describe one of those meetings. And actually, a neighbor's husband had died, and nobody knew about it until he didn't show up to shovel. And that's how they found out that one of their neighbors was dead. And I mean, it's just so moved. I mean, it's a brilliant story about community, about neighbors, about what a snowstorm can do and how it can make you be connected. And now people could connect with this woman had lost her husband. I mean, and is facing probably first big weather emergency without him. I mean, there's just so much there. But like she just put that little bit. And if she has a teacher like Angela who can, coach her to share more, then we're going to get a beautiful, moving, deep, accessibly written story that will touch other ELL, around the country who are going to read it. Does that help people?
Actually, I just want to say that that was truly a big deal for us here in Rhode Island, just because we don't get that amount of snow in like 20 hours. But that I heard consistently over a week that our ESOL population was really freaked out. Like it was the absolute first time people had experienced a blizzard. I mean, I have colleagues who it was the first time they experienced a blizzard. So I mean, I don't know, but I was kind of hoping that that student submits. I don't know how that person's feeling, but I agree. This is the beginning, not even the beginning. She's like halfway into it of a really amazing story that's going to really strike a ton of our student population.
And because Cynthia talked to her after class, when I sought feedback, what did you think about Cynthia's presentation, about the whole college, da, 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 she choked back tears and she said, teacher, I never thought anybody would want to hear from somebody like me. And but now that she said she saw all these things in my writing, now I feel more confident.
Honestly, that's my job. That's what, I see
Yeah.
I see these elements and I want to know more, you know? And I get that kind of response so often. I mean, it really, it is rare in this life for somebody to really look at you and go, I want to know more. Tell me more. You have my attention. What's going on here? And that's helps people open up. So that's partly what I'm looking for. If as teachers, if you can do that with your students, I know it's a kind of an extra ask because it takes more work, it takes more time, it takes more attention. But honestly, I think the rewards are significant because I think that the student then feels like a writer and feels paid attention to, and it's going to inspire them to, do all the other work that they have to do to polish their writing.
Did you was there a prompt for this, or was this just sit down and write something that's important to you?
Yeah, we did we did a large number of prompts. We did two pre-writing activities. One is a brainstorm activity and one is just putting it in an outline. So we have a I was gonna say weekly, but that would be too nice. We've done so far since January two writing activities. And this was the one was for Valentine's Day, qualities in a friend, and this was the big one, the big snow. So yes, there were prompts.
Can you say exactly what the prompt was for this big snow, or don't you have it? If you don't have it
Yeah, I
handy.
kind of broke it down. We first did just a normal, like, just think about the snow and what comes to mind, right? And then we had the word snow in the middle of the page and whatever they wanted to talk about. And then later I wanted to do a guided activity, I guess. I don't know if that's what it's called, where I broke down the snow before, during, and after.
I
And I had
love that.
tons of questions,
Yeah.
predictions. What was the prediction? I can share that with you later if you'd like. And then I said, there was a big thing about how it's not a question answer. You really have to tell them that a lot. Because if you give them prompts, they get into the question answer. They want to write down the answer to
Right.
every question
Right.
that is a prompt. And you have to really teach them it's just an inspiration, it's just a jumping off point. What are you thinking about? So they had lots, and I just played music, a snow music from my Spotify, and I had them like write what comes to mind, and then they wrote it in their house. I also wanted to say to Mida or anybody who teaches beginner that this student's writing is one of the weaker samples of writing, and I love that Cynthia chose to highlight it because it should show that our the more beginner writers can also be participating in writing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's a total difference between putting your ideas on a page and fixing the grammar, right? So,
Yeah.
right, like who cares about the grammar or the spelling? Who cares?
However,
Yeah, no, I know.
speaking of grammar, let me share one more thing. And that is this really cool grid that was developed by Kerry Reed. I don't know if people remember him. He used to work at World Ed, and I think it's really helpful. I've started using it in my class, and it's available on a Google Doc here, and it's the same for all the Google Docs that I share. You can make a copy of it or download it, and then you can adapt it. So here's how it works. So I took some of her sentences, like before the snowfall arrived, and this is how she had it, period, all the alarms is on. Okay. And then she had a comma. Now, the edited sentence I would think would just be before the snowfall arrived, comma, all the alarms were on, period. So that you would type in the corrected version here. And then you could talk about applied rules. Okay, that's a little bit esoteric, but what are we trying to do here? We're trying to not have a run on, which is what this would have been if she had ended with a comma and just kept going. We're trying to use commas, before the introductory clause. We're trying to use the proper verb tense. So, however you have talked about grammar rules so far, and whatever language you use, you can type those in. And then, you're giving them a chance to be reminded about the rule and a chance to see it applied in a sentence. And then, I don't know, this last category, sentence type and why, I don't know. I would maybe just delete that. Like, what are you going to put? Declarative, interrogative, exclamatory. I mean, you can do that if you want, or honestly, when you adapt this, you could just delete that column. Or if it's appropriate for your students, you could keep it in. But again, you put the sentences, the unedited sentence, and then you put the correction, and then you work together, to figure out how to correct it. And you could have people work in pairs or small groups, or you can work together as a class. You could have this up on your smart board while you're, showing the correct way to do it. You could model a few of them and then just have them do it on their own, whatever's appropriate for your class.
I
So
would pick not from the same student so that the same student doesn't feel picked on, even though you've told them that this is a collaborative, learn from each other type thing, but maybe like pick sentences from different people's sentences.
yes, very good idea. And honestly, a lot of pre-work you have to do to help people not feel picked on. And also you have to really get permission from students. I never do this without getting their very explicit permission. And then we always give them a big round of applause and we appreciate them so much. And then, what happens in my class, people, can you do mine now? But again, it's just all about those community building things that you do in your class to make people feel warm and safe and not judged and, willing to take risks.
So you are doing this in front of the whole class with this up on the board, and you've got these sentences from maybe several different works, and you're getting their input to create a better sentence. Okay.
Yep. And to remind them of the rule, like, we worked on using a comma before a conjunction, when there's two complete sentences. So we can say, oh, that's that comma rule about conjunctions. So, I try to use the rules that, or try to show the mistakes that can be fixed by the rules that we've been learning. If that makes sense. So it's not too confusing.
I gotta go. I have to take my husband to the airport, but I was wondering, do you have any graphic organizers or exercises you've done with main idea? Because now that my student have done brainstorm, tomorrow we're gonna try to put them in an introduction, body, and conclusion paragraph. And I am looking for easy way out to see if you have anything. Like I thought about the claim organizer. If I could just replace it with the word
Yeah,
claim,
of course.
how the
You
other
can do
teachers feel
whatever you
about it?
want with any my or graphic organizers. Just grab it and just change it.
But how do the teachers feel here, my colleagues here? Do you think that that same graphic organizer, that place, if instead of calling it a claim, could I call it a main idea? That was the one where my polio could not defeat my brother.
Mhm. I think you could. Mhm. Why not the main idea? Sure. You don't have to say claim. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you all. I know we're
That was
past
awesome.
time. So I hope everybody will go to the link to the call for articles. The topic is home. There's 15 prompts. You don't have to share all 15. You can share just one or five or whatever you want, however you want to do it. You can treat it as a complex document that requires that practice of, being patient with the document and looking at it. Try to have your students write at the level they're at. Please don't, I hope people feel supported to write in English at the level they're at. That's the most important thing.
I put a couple things in the chat really quickly. So I did put the link to the most recent call for writing. Under that is the link to the workshop evaluation. This is being recorded. I will send out the slide deck, the recording, and the evaluation to you tomorrow, probably. And the last thing I'll say, and then maybe a couple people have questions, but Amy put that she'd love to see a writing Brit from Angela. Me too. And I also just want to say that
Which
Angela did a
one? For
reading
which one? Sorry, for which
for
one?
writing. And yeah, we'd love that.
But
I
which one?
second
I have so many. Which one did you want to see?
just a Brit Frit on writing.
Oh, in the future. Okay. Not now. All right, great. I'm like, what? All right.
Think about it. And just to let you know, she did one on reading last year, and that's in our YouTube channel. I can help you find it.
And
But
Mita had a question. Mita had a
yes,
question.
questions, go.
Well, all I was going to say is I think a claim is different from a main idea, and that a claim is trying to persuade something. And so if you just explain that to your, I guess, because I was when I first started, I was thinking, well, we talk about main idea already. We don't talk about claim yet with with low beginners. So
And if anybody has a really easy main idea from how do we go from brainstorming to putting it in an outline, if anybody has access to one, that would be awesome. Another thing is if you know of a publication where a high schooler can write their essay. I have a student whose daughter is in high school and would like to submit their essay, and she wanted to be in Change Agent, but Change Agent is for adults. If you can think of one, Marie Cora, anybody else, let me know.
Do you accept writing from teens, Cynthia?
Writing from teams?
Teens,
Teens.
high school students.
No, I mean,
Bye, Angela, thank you.
yeah, we're mostly writing by adult learners in adult ed programs, but I have to actually run to another meeting myself, but I just want to speak to Geraldine that there's no easy answer to the question about how to have them just not use Google Translate. But basically when I get pieces that are just clearly Google Translate, they're not going to get published.
Okay, thank you.
And same with ChatGPT or any of that kind of stuff. Like I really want their authentic voices, and I can tell right away if it's, So just encourage them. What I say is if you can use Google Translate for a word or two, just the same way you would use a dictionary, but please do not drop whole sentences in there. People, thank you for your great
Thank you
work
so much.
in the classroom. It was really great to spend this time with you. I'd love to hear from you if you try anything and you let me know how it went, or if you have any questions about using the call for articles or anything at all, just be in touch. You have my email address in the slides.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the suggestions in the chat, and we'll talk to you soon. Good luck out there, everybody. Encourage your students to write. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.